Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Lisa Sweet. I am with the World Economic Forum, and I'm pleased to be the moderator of tonight's session, the Coalition for the Carbon Plus Farming Journey, European Green Deal in Action. I'm really thrilled to be here with everybody today. As you know, today, agriculture and our food systems are one of the largest contributors to greenhouse gas emissions, nature, and ecosystem degradation. This is a double burden of sorts for the food systems, because while food systems contribute to climate change and nature loss, they fundamentally also rely on climate stability and a healthy natural ecosystem to thrive. But the food systems are unique in their potential to address multiple challenges at once. Not only do the food systems have many of the tools and the practices at hand to significantly mitigate emissions, they also have the unique ability to sequester carbon and restore nature in the process, which is what brings us all here today. Tonight, for those of us in Europe, maybe it's a little bit earlier in the day for those joining us in the Americas, and if others are joining us around the world, we're thrilled to have you. The UN Food Systems Summit is a people's summit, and it's a solutions summit. And that will be the focus of our discussion today, the solutions to decarbonize our food systems, and in the process, to recognize a multitude of co-benefits for nature and inclusivity for people and planet. Our session today will be divided into 3 segments. In the first, we will hear from esteemed stakeholders, those who are actively involved in considerable efforts, including the Carbon Plus Farming Coalition, to transform the European food system to one which will support climate, nature, and people. And they will discuss the opportunities in the space. The European agriculture system today is responsible for 10% of greenhouse gas emissions and is the leading driver of ecosystem degradation. How might the tools, the practices, and critically the ambitions at hand put agriculture as a central delivery vehicle for Europe's net zero emission plan? Then we'll hear the details on the EU Carbon Plus Journey Coalition. How is it driving action in the space? At the heart of this coalition is putting the farmer central and listening to the farmer to understand their pain points, what they are experiencing that's preventing them from adopting climate smart and regenerative practices, and how collectively the coalition can help to design solutions. And finally, we'll hear thoughts on how this approach might be relevant to other countries around the world. Specifically, we'll hear from Costa Rica, and we'll also hear from the World Farmers Organization point of view. With that, I'm pleased to introduce you to our distinguished panel tonight. First, we have Diana Lenzi. She is Chief Executive Officer of the European Council of Young Farmers. Next, we have Dirk Vosta. Dirk is the Senior Vice President of Regulatory Sustainability and Public Affairs for Agriculture Solutions at BASF. Next, we have Dr. Andy Zinga, Chief Executive Officer at the European Institute of Innovation and Technology for Food, EIT Food. And last, but certainly not least, we have Veronica Scotti, Chairperson, Public Sector Solutions for Swiss Re. Diana, I'd like to come to you first. How can young farmers benefit from the adoption of regenerative and climate smart agriculture practices? And what do they need to support them in their transitions?
Hello. Well, first of all, I would like to thank you very much for this opportunity to bring the voice of SEJA and the voice of the young farmers of Europe to this table. I've been following the Pre-Food System Summit today, and I must say there's not been enough room for the young farmers. There's been room for youth, and I am very grateful for that. But I really feel that I cannot be proved wrong if I say that young farmers are the key to actually achieving a sustainable food system. Why do I say that? First of all, because all over the world, but especially in Europe, we are in desperate need for generational renewal. We have only 5.1% of farmers in Europe are younger than 35, and only 11% are younger than 40 years old, which means that we have a aging farming population that needs to find a succession, that needs to find a way to be rejuvenated. And then, because as we've heard all over today, our planet needs a more sustainable food system. We need to ensure a resilient nature, a nature that is regenerated, that can finally provide us with healthy soil, healthy air, healthy water. We need all of that to work as farmers, because if we don't have a healthy environment, we just can't achieve these goals. We can't even achieve our daily work. So youth is the key, because the goals that we are setting today are goals that need time to be implemented. We can't think that everything is just going to change overnight. We can't think that we'll just snap our fingers and tomorrow morning we can reduce to 50% the use of fertilizers. We need to find solutions. We need to figure out the road to sustainability. How do we implement sustainability a step at a time? And to do it a step at a time, we kind of need to also look at our diversity. We need to look at that great, beautiful picture that is European farming, but worldwide farming, where everything has its own way of working, has a different production, has a specific beauty that we need to respect, understand, and look there at farm level. How do I improve? How do I mitigate? How do I make sure that my system, my local system, becomes more sustainable, so that we sum everything up and we achieve a greater sustainability? So it needs proper planning. It needs a cost benefit assessment. It needs a different mindset. It needs young people who have that capability of seeing ahead, of being open-minded, of being creative, of being ambitious, when smartphones became something for the first time, would we have put it in the hands of an 80-year-old? No. Now, can an 80-year-old actually use a smartphone? Yes, but it was the younger generation that took the lead of this new technology and managed to make it become mainstream. We need to do this with farming systems. We need to do this with climate smart action. And what's the problem here? Just like the phones in the beginning were accessible to very few people because of the cost, this is what is happening with these fantastic, innovative, mind-boggling technologies that use data, use satellite, use sensors to help us improve our farming systems in a way that is spectacular. But for a young farmer who is in the middle of his succession, is starting up, is trying to implement his farm, also factoring in that type of cost when already even maybe just accessing land is a cost that is so hard for him to sustain, is impossible. So this is where coalitions work. This is where we need to partner up. This is where we need to put the young farmers in the lead of these instruments, because they will find the way to properly use them to guide this transition and provide us with a more smart climate agriculture. And they will benefit from this in two ways. The most classic way is that we will help our planet, we will help nature, and that way we will have healthy soil, healthy air, healthy water. That is what we need to work. And on the other side, for once, we can actually start counting what we are doing in terms of improving the system. For once, we could have recognition of what we're doing. And that is, for me, a goal, because it is what finally would kind of flip around the perspective that is slowly changing on the role of farmers, of not being just the polluters and the people who are breaking the system, but the ones who want to fix it from inside with their hard work and with their great love. So I believe firmly in agriculture and smart agriculture, because I also know that this type of technology, this type of solution is also what will help us attract more youth into agriculture. And this is how we will solve basically 3 problems with one solution. So not a one-fits-all type of solution, but using all of the instruments we have, this is definitely the right road.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Dana. And we'll come back to you a little bit later. I think many points there that you picked up on that really will resonate with our group, will hopefully resonate with our audience. I think none more so than the passion that you just exhibited and the real strong recognition of the role of youth in the future and how critical that is. Dirk, I'm going to come to you next. I'd love to pick up on one of the points that Deanna really mentioned, the need for coalitions, and really talk about what is the private sector's role in all of this? What is the role in investing in and accelerating the shift of food systems to become much more sustainable and climate smart? What's needed for innovative approaches, and how are coalitions such as the EU Carbon Plus Coalition really helping to achieve these goals? You're on mute. The classic Zoom problem.
Let's say if there is not even one saying I'm on mute, I think it hasn't been a successful meeting. So thanks for the lot of questions, and it's a great pleasure and honor to be here. And Diana, I think you're speaking also not only out of the heart. I've seen the many comments already in the chat box, but also out of my heart. But please also be assured, it's not only to the responsibility of the young farmers to build and work on their generation to come, but it's also, I think, a matter of maybe the more mature farmers, but also members in the whole ag food system who also take the responsibility. And it's up to us as well to make this change. So the question is certainly, I think, a strong commitment to zero hunger. That's very clear. And you heard it from Diana. It is the ag and food system will undergo a tremendous accelerated transformation in the next years to provide healthy food, to provide affordable food, to manage food security, nutrition, but as even more important, to mitigate the impact on our planet. It's about healthy soil, healthy air, healthy water, as we have heard. And all of this together brings us to a call for what we call a better yield. A yield which is accepted by society, driven by societal demands and needs, but within the planetary boundaries. It really comprehensively, and I think this is also where industry at large comes into play, a coexistence of regional differences and coexistence of various ag systems. And all in all, farmers are in the center. And maybe if I could add a word of it, I think farmers are the core of the transformation. Farmers have to manage an unprecedented complexity, a complexity, I could say, to the power of 5. They have to manage scarce resources. Farmers will, let's say, manage increasing societal demands, new technologies, digitalization, application technologies, coming and committed to deliver from industry will be there. Climate change, climate resilience, and even more uncertainties. Uncertainties coming from weather panels, but uncertainties coming maybe from COVID, and uncertainties coming from trade wars, something which we haven't really experienced in the past. So those are elements which really are crying out, asking for a strong collaboration, a collaboration which I think hasn't been there in the past, but which we now need to set up and are setting up with the Carbon Plus Farming Coalition. It's a coalition or coalitions not only within an industry sector, which we have seen in the past, for example, to develop new technologies, but it's a coalition across the value chain, across the food and ag value chain to deliver what is needed to reduce the carbon emissions by farming. And you said it, Lisa, it's roughly 10% in Europe. How can we avoid emissions through nitrogen inhibitor technologies, for example, for an improved nitrogen management and uptake of the plants? How can we, let's say, promote biodiversity? How can we preserve soil? How can we work to fertilize even further soil through cover crops, through maybe tillage or no tillage or partly tillage methodologies? How can we, let's say, even enrich it through black carbon and others? I think this is the technology and the commitment from industry to deliver those technologies. Technologies not only for the global north, technologies also available and have to be made available for the global south. But all in all, farmers are in the centers, and I think this is where the Coalition Plus Farming comes into play, asking farmers in Europe very extensively, what are their needs? What are their demands? What are their issues and challenges? Come up with defined measures, come up with defined solutions, and even more, implement those in pilots to demonstrate it can work. And also, let's say, attract other members to join the coalition to really get this momentum going. This is really key. I think the agricultural transformation requires a collaboration. It requires a strong investment of companies like BASF and others, and we will take our share and we'll take our responsibility. but it's also important that we have a technology openness in our society, because a lot of things, productivity increase on the available acres, and the acres are shrinking day to day through more cities, through more traffic, but also through some, let's say, forest burn downs and desertification. So it is up to us at all to develop these technologies. It is up to the politicians and the society to accept that we have to accelerate and have to be open for new technologies to make, in principle, the zero hunger target achievable within the given time frame. So strong commitment from our end, strong commitment from industry for the Carbon Plus Farming coalition, but also I think looking forward to the UN Food Summit, the System Summit in September, and the pre-summit to deliver the impact and maximize the impact we have. Forward looking to the dialogue, but certainly I think, as you put it out, Lisa, industry is ready to take its share, industry is ready to invest, industry is ready to incentivize whenever it comes for improving the so-called environmental footprint, but certainly also keeping in mind to produce the better yield.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Dirk. I think really bold ambitions that you're laying out and commitments from the private sector to be part of the solution. I want to pick up on one comment that you spoke of, technology. And technology is one part of the solution, but actually the ecosystem that allows technology to be delivered is another critical part of the equation. And I think it will be great to call on Andy next from EIT Food. EIT Food receives its mandate from the EU, for which you're an institutional innovation partner. You create these innovation ecosystems, which can bring technologies and other innovations to bear, to scale, to those who need them most. I'd love to hear from you to understand the dynamic of where is the EU headed right now, and how can innovation and innovation ecosystems help to deliver on the farm to fork strategy?
Thank you, Lisa, for the question, and welcome to all of you who attend, and my fellow panelists, of course, as well. Yes, as you said rightly, we are an EU-financed ecosystem orchestrator. So EIT Food deploys this ecosystem of around 500 partners, and we co-finance projects across the entire agri-food value chain. It was interesting. I wish I could now talk much more about what Diana said. There's a lot to unpack there. Just want to point out a couple of things. First of all, I think training, farmers training farmers is a key thing, and that's something we're very much fostering. And also someone put in the chat about how can SMEs and startups get involved. We have test farms that we make available for startups to go ahead and test all kinds of different technologies. But I think fundamentally with the UN Food Systems Summit, as a global society, we are acknowledging that our food system is broken and that we're facing fast evolving, interdependent and correlated challenges. And those challenges are spread along health, climate, the biosphere, the economy, culture, and we need systems solutions to overcome them. At the end of 2019, as most of you will know, the European Union announced the Green Deal to make Europe climate neutral by 2050. And it's the European Union's ambition to already cut the emissions by 55% by 2030 compared to 1990 levels. However, this would require all sectors and all actors to transition to climate-friendly practices, including agriculture and food, which is where the training comes in that I just mentioned. There's many more pieces, but just a couple of those to point out. Now, the Green Deal and the action on food systems is, as you know, further detailed in the European Union Farm to Fork strategy, which has some pretty ambitious targets. For example, a 50% cut in the use of chemical and hazardous pesticides and 25% of EU farmed area to become organic by 2030. Now, the EU will be rolling out the Green Deal and the Farm to Fork strategy with dedicated legal and regulatory instruments in the coming months and years. As part of this rollout, we expect the EU to announce the Carbon Farming Initiative in the coming few months, and policymakers at the European Parliament are already talking about rewarding carbon sequestration on farms. So that's one of the means that the EU is working on deploying. Now, while policy sets the direction and the ambition, it falls on all of us to develop and deliver the tools, solutions, and the practices to help implement those policies. This morning, the summit plenary highlighted the need for finance and for increased investment into innovation, which we fully agree with. Food systems innovation is needed to bridge the gap between policy and implementation. Innovation in all its forms should be deployed as an enabler for growth and for transitioning to trusted, healthy, and sustainable food systems. It is very clear that if we fail to deliver on food systems transformation, we will definitely fail on the SDGs. Now, if we fail on delivering on the SDGs, we'll be losing global economic growth potential of something like 12 trillion US dollars by 2030. So this isn't to be looked at as a cost. This is to be looked at as an opportunity. This is 15% growth from today into a better and sustainable planet, and without creating winners or losers. This is not a zero-sum game. You don't have to leave anyone behind. And it is this ambition that made us as EIT Food join the Carbon Plus Farming Coalition from the beginning. At this point, I thank Bayer, BASF, Yara, Syngenta, Hero Group, Swiss Re, Zurich Insurance, Planet, Croppin, ECAF, University of Glasgow, and of course the World Economic Forum. Once again, personally, every member of the coalition has taken a bold step and dedicated and has decided to go outside their own four walls to find new solutions, inspire innovations, and create knowledge. Together, this coalition has been working on the problem of making a clear and compelling problem statement. And through this unique collaboration, I truly believe that we'll be able to identify the most meaningful solutions and develop and deploy them together. Now, Christine Brunel-Lignot will share more about that in a minute. So let me just close by saying that as EIT Food, we're looking forward to meeting the needs of farmers and scaling those innovations across Europe through our pre-competitive innovation ecosystem so that we all move towards a nature-positive future together. And again, it's important to stress that pre-competitive innovation ecosystem. We provide that safe space for them to build trusting relationships. None of the work we do is transactional. It's all built on relationships, people working together, trusting each other, sharing their challenges and the problems and the technology challenges. And we believe that the Carbon Plus Farming Coalition has all the key ingredients to succeed and to make a significant contribution to delivering on policy climate targets and on improving the resilience and operating conditions of farmers. So that's, I think, all I wanted to share with you today, and I thank you for the opportunity of giving a bit of a snapshot of all the great things that we're doing at EIT Food to help this planet and its people.
Thanks so much, Andy. I think you spoke on really some of the positive opportunities there, and that's a fantastic space to grasp onto. You also spoke of the need for finance, and this comes up quite frequently over and over again. How do we get the right finance tools into the food system? How do we get financial leadership to really understand the opportunity of the space and to help us de-risk the space and bring the necessary tools in? So I'm really thrilled to be able to hand over to Veronica at this point to talk about the innovation that's necessary, the importance of that innovation, not just in the ecosystems that we were talking about before, but really in the financial and the insurance and the reinsurance sectors. How can that be brought to bear to really help us to scale and mainstream net zero, nature positive agriculture?
Thanks, Lisa. And can I confirm you can see me and hear me well? Hear you well. Absolutely. Fantastic. Well, you couldn't have sequenced it better because I'm just going to build a little bit on the points that Andy and Diana and others have made before. So we believe this is, as a company, but also as an industry all around, we really see agriculture, as Andy mentioned, as critical to the transition. And, we're quite committed to scaling net zero, nature positive solutions going forward. Now, we've been part of contributing to the resilience of the sector as an reinsurance industry for a number of years, and we've done a lot of innovation. What needs to happen now, and this is an an incredible opportunity with the European Green Deal and therefore this coalition is to take those good transactional experiences and just move it at a completely different level, and recognizing, as Andy mentioned, that we need a system approach. And within that system, risk and finance have an important role to play. So what I want to share with the audience today is that system thinking can sound a little bit intimidating, but actually we have been on this path already for a while. Let me take the example of climate change. As a company, we started in '79 studying climate change, and very recently, about 2 years ago, we decided to move ourselves, and many of other partners on this coalition are exactly in the same boat, to try and move ourselves to a net zero position. So when we look at changing and modifying our entire business, we have to develop both the frameworks, the tools, and then the decision-making criteria and the partnerships to be able to do that. And if I look at just 2 years of work in the climate space, we have been able to align with the Asset Owner Alliance that is mobilizing 30 trillion of assets under management. And we very recently launched a net zero insurance alliance across 8 global insurance and reinsurance companies in the world. So we could do that. I'm convinced we can do that now on a cross-sectoral effort together with others. And this is what we need to do. We need to make sure that the knowledge that we have about what makes agricultural resilience is now integrated with climate scenarios and the decarbonization targets. Already today, I don't know if you're aware, but agriculture is actually a stellar example in our portfolio Swiss Re, and I'm going to say for many of our peers, an stellar example of innovation, because it's one of the few sectors where not only we pay losses after the event, but together with the use of technology, we've been able to anticipate and reduce the loss burden by being able to use technology and anticipate events, anticipate droughts, and anticipate issues that will lead to losses, and a very early intervention. So now we need to use that same technological approach and partnership approach to help with the decarbonization. There are some barriers to the upscaling. It's not just a matter of taking the old mode and applying it across. But that's why the coalition is so fundamental to the way forward. And I just want to mention 3 of them very quickly. First of all, in order to make it happen, we have to have a crisp vision and a roadmap. And it's very obvious that no single company can do that, nor a single sector. So for us, the coalition is going to create a tremendous momentum, because we're letting go of something that, as Andy mentioned, I think it's not working exactly as we wished. But however, we need a new powerful future vision that is just as good. And for us, that just transition is very important. And it has to be sustainable. It has to be sustainable financially. It has to be sustainable ecologically. It has to be, as we heard before, farmer-centric. And it has to be still competitive. So not just within, the walls of Europe, but also on the international scene. So this is why the coalition is fantastic, because it allows us to build a multi-year roadmap and have all these interests aligned. The second thing I want to bring up is the risk mindset. And I say that because in our experience, the risk considerations and insurance in particular tend to be a little bit of an ex post and sometimes perceived as optional, where I would offer that through this coalition, we can really understand and improve our understanding of why farmers think that way. What is it that gets in the way of preemptive planning and getting more use of tools that allow to get protection when there is downside risk? And the third point, I would say it's around the planning ex ante. So having this risk mindset integrated in the way the coalition is going to develop its action points for us is essential, because this is the upside. If we understand together the risks, and the system will transition, which means there will be more uncertainty. But our promise is that we want to be part of accompanying that transition, because for us, being able to sustain the agricultural sector is critical to how we look at the whole of society approach. And for our partners, partners to know that we're willing to be one and together in that transition process is very important, because we can achieve a couple of things: the lower possible cost, the highest level of certainty, and the transparency and the data sharing that allows more innovation and more system level type of resilience. We are excited about being a member of the coalition because we believe that we have at the same time an effective mobilization of technical competencies, but also market forces in the context of a policy environment that will be very supportive. It's very clear what the end game is here. And so for us, it's an opportunity to help deliver a very ambitious vision for Europe, which we hope will eventually be taken to other regions that are even more dependent on the agricultural sector for their societies overall. And with that, I would like to hand it over back to you, Lisa.
Excellent, thanks. So we just have a few minutes left on the panel, so I'm going to ask for a speed round from all the panelists. My question that I will pose to each of you is, what do you want the audience to take away about your vision for the future of agriculture in the EU and what you'll bring to it? So, Deanna, can I come to you first?
I would like them to take back our passion and our conviction that we are truly the solution, but also the fact that we believe that working in a system and in a coalition is the right approach. I heard 3 things today that were, for me, fundamental and are part of what I believe in and we believe in as SEJA, which is an intergenerational approach. We can't do it alone. We, of course, need the older generation to help out and to be a part. Farmers training farmers is clue and key. And then the risk mindset, that is something we need to change. And us as young farmers really are the ones who are going to take that on our shoulders. It's at the center of our latest position paper. So seeing that the people who are here with me today are in that same frame of mind is very positive for me. And I hope that that showed.
Excellent. Well, we're so glad to hear that, and we're thrilled to have you to come to you for advice and solutions as the coalition moves forward. I think we're very much looking forward to making sure the voice of the young farmers are a part of the solutions that we built. Dirk, coming over to you.
Well, I think something which I think hasn't been maybe explicitly said, but that's the word speed. I don't think we have time to let's say, wait until things going along. Breeding a new variety takes 8 years. Let's say developing a new technology takes 10 years. Of course, speed it up by digitalization, but now it's a time to really speed up. It's about timing to form the coalition, move ahead. If we are not on the right path, redirect as we go, but don't wait for the perfect solution. Hearing it from a German chemical company may not be, or maybe to a certain degree, astonishing for you, but this is for me, together with the right mindset. Technology is there. Deploy the technologies. We are ready to do it. Get it done and redirect if we're not on the full path, but don't wait 5 years to create the perfect idea of the world. And Europe can and will be leading a lot of technologies which then can be taken over by other countries into the global south and elsewhere.
Excellent. A great sense of urgency coming forth from you, Dirk. Andy, over to you.
Thank you. So just by way of deviating a little bit from the typical innovation. So innovation to me is a hygiene factor, right? So innovation has to happen. Everybody has to develop products and services to address the challenges in the world. But one of the factors that's often forgotten is the teaching. So I look at it as like teaching, testing, and together. So that I would like for all of you to take that home with you. That is not just about the innovations, but there has to be sharing of best practices. There has to be a back and forth, right? So, how do you apply it? And then, feedback and stuff like that. Also, the piece on testing that I mentioned, test farms have to be made available. There have to be young and innovative companies and entrepreneurs must have some kind of way to test and try things. So that's the second thing. And then again, togetherness, right? So it cannot be just solved by industry. You have to have knowledge partners like universities and research centers. So we always believe in knowledge triangle integration, as we call it, not just industry, but startups and universities and research centers and other, civil society and consumer organizations. So togetherness is key. So it's teaching, testing, and together. Those are the three.
Great, perfect clarity. I don't need to repeat it. And Veronica, over to you.
Well, I would just say the one thing to take away is this is again essential. It's a we all need food, and we all need to recognize the importance of climate change. So I look at this coalition as a one in a lifetime opportunity to do together the right thing and to accelerate the impact that we can produce with this, and to export whatever our learnings, our best practice, our innovation to other markets, because this is needed not just within Europe, but also beyond.
Excellent. Well, I want to just thank the panelists so much for being a part of this, for sharing the opportunities. We are going to bridge into the next section now. Really thrilled to have Christine Brunel-Ligneau, who I've been working closely with, and other members of the coalition have been working closely with this past year. Christine is the head of sustainable agriculture at Bayer AG, and she's here to tell us a bit more in detail what our panelists have been referring to about the EU Carbon Plus Farming Coalition. Christine?
Yeah, so good evening, good morning, everyone. So this is my pleasure to share the work of the EU Carbon Plus Farming Coalition. Very, very enjoyable to hear from the different panelists. And I hope that with these presentations, I will meet the expectations. And this is also a call for improvement. So we are all very humble to support the Green Deal and to get achieved on time and find out solutions for carbon decarbonizations of the food system. So just to remind, and I hope you see the presentations because I don't. Thank you. So the initiative to form the European Carbon Farming Coalitions was catalyzed by the World Economic Forum CEO Action Group for the European Green Deal, and is part of the Food and Nature Platform 100 Million Farmers. So Jan Kandan, our CEO at Bayer, has made a call for actions in January on behalf of the CEO Action Group to set the coalitions and invite anyone who wants to contribute to join the effort. So in terms of context, that all has been already said. So agriculture in Europe is today responsible for 10% of the greenhouse gas emissions, and the transformations of the sector could be a sizable contributor to Europe's net zero emission plan, and will require ambitious collaborations along the entire value chain. And that's today what we have around the table, around 13 players who are very engaged and very dynamic into advancing this project. So on the nutshell, what we are trying to achieve with the coalitions is that we are looking after action-oriented and farmer-centric approach. So farmers are in the center of what we are doing, because we believe that they are the ones who can transform the food system, but the solutions that we need to provide to them needs to be practical and makes economic sense, and we need to support any risk they will be taken. So that's the reasons this coalitions is around accelerating the progress that we can make towards the European farm to fork strategy, and to set up an understanding about what could be solutions we could co-design together to create, in order that it is the implementations of practical solutions, and that can be valued along the value chain. So by the end consumer, that he understands about what has been done by the farmers in the field. So going to the next slides, I can then explain about the coalitions. So our goals is about co-design solutions and proposal to scalable climate smart solutions going forward for regenerative agricultures, but we need to be very close to the needs and to be very pragmatic and practical in the way we want to deliver these solutions. So that means that first we need to understand the farmer challenge. What type of issues they are facing, why they are not adopting climate smart practices while they know what can be implemented. And they are looking after carbon emission reductions as well as sequestrations. Then we need to identify and develop the recommendations. So for incentives, for policy changes, monitoring, reporting, verification mechanisms, and how we can build the capacity for enable and to move the barriers to adoptions to climate smart practices. But what we want to do as a coalitions is to co-design proposals and solutions for the farmers, very practical to different cropping systems, in order that we can achieve this decarbonized food system at the regional level, but as well globally. If there are good ideas, please make use of it. So on the next slides, I can explain about the path we have been taking. So important, and that has been said already. So we want to be representative to the very diverse EU cropping system. So we have selected 10 cropping system, which is made of 6 cropping system plus 7 countries, which are representative, and they are very strategic because of the footprint and the land use coverage today. And they are today a significant potential for decarbonizations, and they are meaningful to the end consumers. So we have potatoes, we have tomatoes, but we have also wheat and oilseed rape. So here it's being very representative, and also considering Northern Europe, Southern Europe, and different type of farmers. So some are very advanced already in some carbon farming activities, some are just beginning, and smaller farmers. So that's really what we need to be very inclusive into our approach. So then moving to the next one, I can explain briefly about the five phases that we have been implementing. So for the last quarter, we have been working into setting up the crop country combinations, trying to identify from the partners, coalitions, partner standpoints, how we can address what are the issues from our perspective. And then we are engaging directly with the farmers. So we are doing qualitative and then quantitative surveys. So getting very close to the farmers into conversations per cropping system, trying to understand the pain points, what are the barriers to adoptions, while at the same time already asking about how will you serve it? What would be the adequate solutions for that? How we can de-risk the decisions to do so. And then having this understanding with a meaningful size of farmers, we want to design solutions. So going into analytical and understanding how we can best provide solutions, very practical again, and ultimately design pilots. As I said, we want to be solutions oriented, very practical, and then we want to demonstrate how it could work and be scalable at the European level. So what I want also to mention is that we have 30 partners involved, but we have 2 companies supporting us, so which is Everis and Ipsos, who are delivering outstanding services there to supporting us in implementing and in understanding this. So going to the official partners, and here we are very proud of already what we have achieved as a group, because we have here technology providers from agriculture working end to end, but as well financial solutions providers with Zurich and Swiss Re, of course. And we have also digital companies who are accompanying us, so Planet in Cropping, very important perspectives they are giving us. But we have also associations and very experienced group into soil, like so research with the University of Glasgow, but as well ECAF for European Conservation Agriculture Forum, and EIT Food, which is guiding us through the Green Deal and the solutions development. So here we are very diverse. We can be even more diverse. So we have food chain partners with Eero. But here again, this is a call for any companies who wants to join us. There are opportunity to contribute. I think that as it has been already said, we cannot solve the massive issues of transforming agriculture and food system alone. So here again, there is great opportunity. We are very confident that by September, for the global event of the Food Summit, we will be able to deliver solutions and ideas already, not for all the 10 crop systems, but already some few of them where we can be very happy, and we are happily sharing this information very soon. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Christine. I think that was an excellent presentation to give our viewers a sense of the tremendous amount of work that this coalition has been doing and the fabulous opportunity that we have in front of us. I can already see on the chat a number of participants who are asking how to get actively involved. So we will send out an email address that you can reach out to if you have interest in joining the coalition. And we look forward to the participation of many more, because this is a big, complex, challenging set of solutions that we're looking to create. And we will need more active, dedicated players, such as those that you see on the panel today and who have been speaking with us thus far. So I'm thrilled to be able to change the discussion a little bit to pick up on the comments that Veronica made so nicely at the end of the panel. This isn't just about Europe, but really it's around how do we take what we're learning in Europe and how do we bring solutions such as this, coalitions such as this, around to the rest of the world. The World Economic Forum has initiated a platform called the 100 Million Farmers, which really is looking to reach 100 million farmers with the incentives and the tools and the collaborations that are necessary to transform the agriculture system, of which Europe is a great starting point, but it is not our ending point. We are looking to go much bigger, much broader, much bolder around the world to bring the necessary changes that are out there. And I'm so pleased to turn this last segment of our discussion tonight to two panelists, one of whom you've already heard from, and one who is new. So first, I'd love to introduce Mr. Roberto Azofafa. I apologize if I got your name wrong. The head of sustainable agriculture production for the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock of Costa Rica. Roberto, your president has outlined a number of priorities in the space we've been discussing, from fighting desertification and restoring soil to protecting biodiversity and ecosystems and tackling climate change. You're also a front runner as a country in creating the economic space for this. I'm curious as to your reflections on what you've heard and how you see components of this potentially translating to Costa Rica, which has one of our most beautiful natural ecosystems to protect and a diversity of food and services that you provide from the country.
Okay, thank you, Lisa, and thank you all the presenters. Congratulations for this new initiative you are improving in Europe. So for me, it's interesting to see private sector working with all stakeholders. Congratulations. Well, here in Costa Rica, yeah, we are different because we are in the tropic. So the cycle of carbon is totally different than you in Europe. But yes, we are improving our support to farmers in order to stimulate the cycle of carbon in soil and how to improve soil by organic residues or organic composting and this kind of technologies, because carbon is life for soil, and if soil is healthy, so crops will produce healthy also. There are some aspects you mentioned regarding to economic side of practices on carbon soil. For me, in my experience here in Costa Rica, it is important that farmers can discover the economic aspect, the economic incomes or benefits with regard to the practices in terms of how to maintain coverage in soil, how to maintain carbon in soil. But also here in Costa Rica, we have a program in order to stimulate investments with positive impacts in soils. For example, in order to maintain coverage in soil, it is possible to have some specific machines for non-tillage, for example, in order to don't remove soil, because loss of carbon in soil is not good for the soil and not good for crops. Regarding to data to measure result, this is very important, because if we don't have data statistics, it is more difficult to convince people in terms of how to scale this kind of practices. The role of consumer is also very important, because sometimes consumers, if don't stimulate farmers to do this kind of practices, it's more difficult for us to convince farmers. The practice you mentioned, farmer to farmer, is very, very important. They need to learn each other about the experience. And also here in Costa Rica, through the extension program, we try to stimulate at the farm level experiments in order to see the effects of how to maintain carbon in soil. It is important to also mention that Costa Rica has many years working on this, but especially in the case of the trees in the farm. So now we are starting how to stimulate carbon in soil in order to catch and decarbonize economy. So in this sense, your initiative, I think, would be a good reference for us in order to continue working with farmers here in Costa Rica. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for joining us from Costa Rica and providing that perspective. I think actually that brings us very nicely back to Diana Lindsay. And Diana is, she wears her hat for SEJA, but she also wears her hat as supporting the Secretariat of the World Farmers Organization. So taking that world view of farmers and youth farmers around the world and what those farmers can bring to the system, what they need from the system. And Roberto, I think as you mentioned, the diversity of the systems in which these farmers sit really being quite different and having very different needs. So Diana, I'd love to turn to you for some final comments from the global end, from the World Farmers Organization lens, on what are the opportunities around the world in this space, what excites you about what you've heard today, and how do we take this forward?
Well, thank you for giving me also this opportunity to wear my hat as part of the policy team of the World Farmers Organization. I've been working with them for quite a bit. I was part of their fantastic gymnasium program and then kind of fell in love with them and stayed on board, now cooperating with them. And it's really helped me to have and bring also then to the table of SEJA a global perspective, because as I said, the diversity of agriculture is our greatest resource. And the fact that we can't think there is one style, one type, one crop. There's millions of crops, different ways of farming, different ways of scaling farming. And this means there are different speeds and different needs all around the world. But what has fascinated me most in the work that has brought up to the Pre-Food Systems Summit is how farmers are finally kind of putting their voices together through their farmers organizations to speak up, to say, if we're talking about farming, farmers need to be at the center of the conversation. If we're talking about an innovative food system and we're the ones who are providing food, you need to talk to us because we know what it means to farm. We know what it means to have to change our system. And we are the ones who can then tailor the solution to our farm level. And we can make this agricultural system more resilient and more sustainable. But we can only do that by listening to farmers. And this has been the incredible movement that I have seen in the independent dialogues going on, because not only did farmers put themselves at the same level with consumers deciding to take the two sides of the value chain and finding the common ground, because we produce for the consumer. So if there's this barricade effect that separates us, it's ridiculous. We work for you, we work for the consumers, and we actually are also consumers. So we are also interested in using healthy, nutritious food and providing it for our families and having enough of it. On the other side, I saw farmers from all over the world come together and talk as partners, as co-partners in this huge battle that we need to win, because this is the other thing that we said today so many times. There's no more time. This is the moment we need to start changing our systems, working. Action needs to be brought at farm level. And this is what is going to be the real challenge, because it's one thing to create carbon sequestration or climate smart farms in Europe with the type of means we have of all forms and shapes. It's another thing to bring it in Indonesia. It's another thing to bring it in Ghana or in Costa Rica. And we need to be respectful for once. We really need to understand the fact that we are a world, a planet, a ball of many different countries, but where if only one country fails, we all fail. So it is the responsibility of every single one of us. And I think of Europe as the economic kind of center of a lot of things, and maybe also a lot of mistakes, to take responsibility and help everybody come on board. I heard some pretty strong and inspiring words in the plenary today that kind of stuck with me. And so I think we need to take responsibility, take action, and move forward all together with our different needs and our different speeds.
Thank you so much. I think take responsibility, take action. Fabulous ending words from Deanna, representing the voice of the young farmers around the world and what we need. They want to deliver for us. They are us. They are consumers at the end of the day. How can we help them? How can we help to accelerate the changes needed? We heard urgency. We heard this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. We heard teaching, testing together. And I think I'll end it again with another word from Deanna, passion. I look forward to working with all of you. We've shared some contact information in the chat. Please reach out if you're interested in getting involved. And thank you to everyone for today's excellent discussion.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all, and have a good evening, day, or whatever in your.
Thank you.
Thank you. All the best.
Ciao, ciao.